Hey, this is the way to be an artist, right? I'm just taking in the environment, seeing what I'll build with it later. It's chilly though. It's not a hot day. I'm here in Michigan and it's chilly. So, as artists, really our job is to go out into the world and take in what is around us. We're empaths. So we take in what is around us intuitively, through our right brain. And this type of information is what we bring back to our studio. And whether we're painters, whether we're jewelers, whoever we are, we bring this back to our studio and we work through it in all of our work. And if you look at some of the past work that you've done, you will see that you could read what was going on during that period of time in your life. So the interesting thing is one of my favorite things that I love to do is to go to the museums and look at art. And there's so many people who are intimidated by looking at artwork because they feel it's supposed to evoke a certain type of emotion, especially well-known painters or sculptors that we know of. We hear their stories already. But what I love to do, know that your personal opinion, every single person interprets this experience differently. So what you feel when you look at a piece of art is valid. We don't have to listen to other people to know how to feel a certain way. So the way that I like to do this is I will go in and to a museum and I like to read, or to artwork, when I see any type of artwork, paintings, know who this person is. If it's someone from the past, I like to know their time period, what country they lived in, what city they lived in, what town they lived in. And this gives you all the information on processing what their work really is about. So if you're seeing someone is from, the colonial times in the U.S. and they've built work, you know what's going on in that time period. If they're from the 1800s, from Paris, you know what was going on politically. That's what you want to research, is what was going on during that period of time and how did this influence their own personal work and how did the work develop to be what it is. So with that interesting fact in mind, know that your work that you're building is holding that same power and strength. You're taking in what's around you and you're bringing it in home. You're bringing it in home to your home studio or to your studio and you're working it through. Everything around you is an influence. And this is why I really love just showing photos and images of being out in the world, walking, being in nature. Lately, I have a lot of hiking photos where I'm out in nature and hiking, doing a lot of hiking and boating and all types of things like that. And it's no wonder my work is becoming about leaves. Leaves and sticks. I think we're going to see it growing a little bit more in that direction. So that's pretty fun to see. Know that your own work really tracks your lifestyle. So, your lifestyle is important. Where you're living, where you travel to. This all brings in different factors to your own personal work. Hey there, Susan here. Remember back in the day when my studio bench was clean? I did too much work here. So today I want to show you a little bit about ring bands. I want to talk about, just the different type of ring bands that I make. Some of them are adjustable, which is pretty cool because recently I've been doing rings on my site that are not adjustable. And I'm finding that it's harder to sell rings that aren't adjustable, you know, especially these nice large ones. This one actually is adjustable. Isn't that interesting? You can't really tell, and especially from the back. So I want to talk about adjustable rings today, and I want to show a couple ways, at least one, on how I build adjustable rings and how comfortable they are. See how high this ring is? When you're building with rings that have height, weight to them, dimension to them, you know, it really is important to make sure that the ring fits really tightly on you or your customer or whoever's wearing it. So the problem is these rings fit on me fantastic. These other ones, they were fantastic for the whole summer, right? And here I am in the Midwest. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. And what happens when the cold weather comes in? We have cold weather, you know, even though I'm still really in a tank top here. Once I get working, I like to just not get overheated, you know, so I'm always in a tank top. But they're really loose on me. So this is the reason that I really love the adjustable rings. You can see this one I could just push a little tighter in the summer, in the winter time, and I can loosen it up a little bit in the winter. And anyway, I could dance, I could go out dancing at night, I could do anything I wanted to, and my ring stays in place. So that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna show you a couple things here today. You know, it's like, yes, I do have rings on my website. It's difficult to do when you start doing these tiny little stacker rings. You know, it is difficult to, you could do adjustables with the little stacker rings, actually. You know, it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna show a really thin way. I'm gonna actually show this with, I think I brought with me like a 12 or a 14, I think it's a 12 gauge wire that I'm gonna show you this technique with. This is actually a blacksmithing technique. And you can move it into any size you want for a stacker ring. I think they'd be gorgeous for a stacker ring. And with stacker rings, I want to say that really what I do is I stack up any kind of size that I want to on my wrist, as long as I end it with a really nice small one that really fits my hand well. That's kind of what I do for stacker rings, you know. I love building them. I love wearing them. I'm recently so addicted to them. This one actually looks like a stacker ring, but it's just one piece. And I think there is a technique that I already showed making this. So this is just one piece that I can stick right on the top of here during, you know, it's not an adjustable. During the winter, it fit me, or during the summer, it fit me beautiful, stuck right on there. So we'll see. I might have to put a little stacker ring right on top of here to make everything work again. So anyway, it's all like with rings. It's personal. It's a little bit more personal, and it's a little bit trickier because our fingers change, our necks don't change, our arms don't change, well, unless we're working out. You know, our wrists don't change. I don't even have my bracelets on today. So, you know, so it's like these rings are just a little tricky. So anyway, I'm going to show you a blacksmithing technique of creating and then I'll show you how I just solder a piece on that one. Okay, first off, you guys, I want to show you, I'm in the Rust Belt. I'm in the Rust Belt capital, and I'm in an old factory. So a lot of my tools and things get really rusted in here. So the way that I take care of them is usually once a year. I give them all, you know, a nice little spa bath in the WD-40 so that I can get a lot of the rust off, oil them up, you know, take care of them however I need to. You know, although I do have a lot of pliers and different tools that I don't get to very often, the thing that helps is to cover things up. I had this covered up with leather once before, and I realized leather takes away that moisture. So I'm going to show you just how I take care of this once in a while. This is a 3M sandpaper for very fine finishes, and I'm just going to go over the surface, and I'm going to very gently, this is how we, you know, polish some of our silver, right, is with these fine, this is something that I set up here. Let me take this out, remove it a little bit. It's all about the anvil. Just kind of get this surface sanded a little bit all over. The surface you want to make sure is nice and flush. You know, you don't want a lot of marks in it, because with the flush surface, you'll be able to really get in and not mark up your silver, you'll be able, or your metal that you're working with, and just get it, you know, exactly the way that you want it. So I want to get this off. Plus this, you know, this is like rust eventually eats away your surface and gives you gouges in your pieces. So you really want to make sure that you take care of your pieces in that way. This piece doesn't matter, but this one does. This one I'm going to be able to see a lot brighter. These have the, this has the sizes on there. The ring mandrel that has the sizes, and I want to be able to see my sizes pretty clearly. So this is important to keep clean this way. Yeah, look at how much better this looks just from a little bit of sandpaper. Now to keep it oiled up, you want to use a real super thin oil. This is just like a little Moroccan oil that I like to use. It's good for my hands. You know, anything that's super thin is good for tools because it doesn't bother surfaces. And I just put a little bit of oil it up. Get a little bit oiled up here. You know, I don't want it to cause any damage to, you know, any surfaces, any raised surfaces. So you don't want that real thick. Thick would be like a olive oil, you know, those thick cooking oils. These are more of like hand oils or liniment oil. I'm using this Moroccan oil. It literally is from Morocco with these beautiful oils that you know, it's very natural and won't damage the surface. Now I have a beautiful surface that I can get ready to work on. Get a little bit of oil on this one. And this is the way that you take care of the surface of your anvil, whether large or small. And I wanted to show you guys something else. I don't know if you guys saw these, but these are magnets. I've got 2 big magnets that I use on my anvil. And, you know, I have a nice stub here, but these, what these do is they take away the tinning sound. So when I'm hammering, right? That doesn't sound good. Did you guys like that? And now I've got these stuck together. See if I can get them apart. Okay, hang on. Careful with these big ones. It just took me a while to get it apart. Okay, so now you just put them right underneath, and that keeps all that tinning noise. Did you guys like that better? Yeah, so that's how I set up my workstation here. So my anvil is ready to go, you know, so I'm gonna show you a technique next. Okay, so to start with, I'm just gonna use, I actually decided to show you one with the 16 gauge. This one's gonna go around a couple times and be an open form, but I think it'll be pretty cool. I'm gonna get part of it soldered so it'll stay in place. So this is about 5.5 inches. Actually, I'd probably use 5 inches because this one is, this one will actually, once it's flattened, it'll get longer. You know, people always ask me like, how much longer will this get? It all depends on how much you flatten the surface, you know, build a flat wire out of it. So I'm gonna start very gently. I'm gonna hold my hammer back here and I'm gonna very gently. Now you guys can hear, isn't this a beautiful sound? That's about, think about hitting this 100 times. Let this tapping relax you. I'm not moving it that much. Look at how beautiful that is. It's not going, once it starts going over to one side or the other side, that means you're hitting it too hard. So I'm just very gently. I also like the idea, this is just the first time in, I'll go in a couple times. I also like the idea of flaring it more at the edges than in the center. So the center, I'm actually just work hardening it now. I'm gonna make this a little bit shorter and I'll use this extra wire for something else. There's always reasons when you build pieces like this to use extra pieces of wire, right? Okay, so I'm gonna come back in. I've got a nice little handle on my piece right here. Get up a little closer. When you're forging, my whole body is relaxed. My posture is straight. This muscle right here is working. So if you want to get some good biceps, that is forging, guys. Now, I could roll this. Whenever I show forging, I have a lot of people who are like, I'm just going to roll mine through the rolling mill, which of course is an option. But you really get this beautiful little handmade, surface on here by not rolling it through the rolling mill. And you also have the opportunity to put a little bit of your own energy in there, right? I'm always talking building talisman. So I'm going to actually bring this over and give myself a little annealing, which I know you guys know annealing. Please remember, don't mind my table. When I anneal, I'll hold it up in the air. You just have to go for a little bit of this. I'm just going to anneal with my, I actually don't even get into my acetylene tool. This is my benzomatic. Remember, my sides are, when I'm annealing, my sides are thinner than the center. So I'm really just going to want to mostly hit it in the center, my piece. And, and then it moves out to the side. Okay, I'm going to dry this off and come in one more time. Let's get you back in place again. There we go. See? That's a nice place to be. Get a paper towel. So here's one of the things that I have to get into a habit about too. I can go back in. I don't have to clean it up at all, but I don't want to put a wet surface on my anvil. That'll just give me more, it'll just give me more rust. So I think, yeah, you guys can see this. So I'm going to go in one more time. Really make sure my edges are cleaned up. Everything looks good. If anything's out of order, your hammer can fix it, hitting it on the side. You can see me just kind of giving a little hit on the side. Hit that on the side. Hit that. Okay. I'm really happy with my shape. It's 16 gauge. I have it pretty thick in the center. I'm not just really trying to flatten the whole thing, just to make it super flat. It's the forging work. Why is it the forging work? Because look at how beautiful this flares out over here. Forging work is done really, really carefully in tiny little increments where you move towards your goal slowly but surely. When I go into a piece, I expect 100 hits. If you expect 100 hits, then you're going to be so pleasantly surprised if you only have 50. But just think of it as, you're coming in, you're focusing on your work, which is why I always teach focusing techniques, because, to be focused on what you're doing, to enjoy being in the moment, then you're not rushing through everything, if you really can enjoy being in the moment. Now, I've got my ring mandrel here, remember? So I'm going to try to, I might have to anneal this again. Let me get my size in here. I think it's still soft enough where I can get it around my piece. This is my rubber mallet that I use now. So say I want a size 7. I pretty much can get this around. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have perpetual dirty fingernails. I didn't pickle this. If I want a size 7, I'm gonna start smaller. So I'm starting way smaller with I'm starting way smaller with the 6, because then when I push it back on my ring mandrel, it's super easy to make wider and larger. So let me come around this way. Okay, here's my rubber mallet. Now, if it's too spring-like on here, guys, like this one, if it's still spring-like and I'm having trouble folding an edge down right here, that just means this has to be annealed. So let me get this annealed. You guys will just hear me. Okay. Get my paper towel. I don't want this going onto any of my equipment. So the more I can get this tucked in, the better off I'll be. Okay. Now let's get this on here again. It's working into a 6 right now. You want to be careful also. This now is going to really be able to get in here and hug this piece. And as I go around with this piece, it makes it a little bit wider. But here's the thing, you don't want to ever hammer metal on top of metal, you know, if you have a double layer, because that will just split your metal. Isn't it crazy to think that your metal splits, you know? You think of your metal as so strong. You know, one of the things I think, I came from the fiber world, and I realized when I work with metal, you know, when I first started working with metal, I used to think of it as just so strong that I had to get in there and beat it up. You know what I mean? And one thing I learned, because I came from fiber, I studied fiber, and I worked a lot with clothing and fabric and fiber when I lived in Chicago. So, you know, when I came at metal, you know, self-taught, but being an artist, I came at it thinking that I had to use a lot of force and strength, which is not the truth. As you can see, so through 35 years of being a silversmith, I have really morphed a lot of my techniques, and most of these are so gentle. You have to think of yourself as a ballerina, where you're fierce, but you're gentle and you're focused. Anytime that you come at your metalwork and you are focused, you're going to do a really good job. So usually right before I check in, like if I start, there's a lot of people where if you I see people, my students, who when they put a lot of work into their piece, they're building it, because, you know, sometimes it's a lot of layers in. It's not just in and out, like doing a ring. You know, sometimes I'm going in and there's 30 different layers of soldering in there, sometimes 10, sometimes 5, you know. But the complex pieces, I see people get really nervous as they get to the end, because they maybe are a little bit afraid that they're going to ruin their piece after they put so much work into it. So, you know, the thing is, you have to get in there and try it. I have so many people, when they get to that more advanced stage, they'll ask me, Susan, can you solder this for me? And I'm like, that doesn't give you the skills to do, but yes, you'd hate to crush your piece at that point. But I always do a little second of just clearing and grounding, and I hand over my soldering, because what that does, you know, not whether somebody's hearing it up there or not, what it really does, it grounds me. It lets me be super aware, so I keep my eyes open, and if I'm about to make a mistake, you know, I can remedy that a little bit, you know. It's like I can remedy, you know, it's just being more careful and being more in the moment and being more aware. So, okay, so here's my piece here. I know you guys can't see it, but it's the size I want. I'm gonna do about a 6.5. Now, when I pull this off, no, I have it at 7. I need to make sure that it doesn't spring back into a different shape. I kind of like this because it's, you know, it's a really nice one. Now, what I want to do is I am just going to solder my bezel right onto this piece. So let me get this pickled, and I'm going to bring you over to the soldering area, and I'll just show you how I'm going to just solder right onto here. And as this, right now it's soft because I annealed it, but as this work hardens, this is going to be a really nice band. I just have to work with it a little bit more for this to be adjustable, and it'll work well. Okay, so hey you guys, if you guys are loving my in the studio films, or, you know, just my different tips throughout, I want to tell you guys that if you like this film here, I have a membership for $25 a month, where I have 2.5 years worth of different tips and projects that you can get on and work with, and that's called Unfolding. But anyway, there's if you want to try it a month free, you can sign up on YouTube end, but if you want to try it a month free, come on into the Kajabi area. It's in the link on the side, and really it's so much information. It's the way that I do my work, it's the way I do my business, and also in there, in the membership for $25 a month, I am in here and I meet on Discord, which looks like Zoom. If you guys don't know that platform at all, you guys can sign up for Discord inside of Unfolding. And I meet with everyone once a month. I answer questions. I'm live. I talk to people. Sometimes I show a project if people ask me. But it's also a way, because I'm all about community, I have specific times that I really come in to talk. But sometimes, we all just pop in just to work side by side, virtually together, and it's been really fun. We're just getting it started this month. So think about the membership. You can pop over to my profile and come on over to Kajabi if you want to try the month free. And, also I just teach the way to be successful as an artist. So that's what Unfolding is all about. It's all these little steps. I teach a lot of energy work in there too, but I have two different sections. One is for the metal workers and one is for all of this invisible work. You could find in there also tips for the trade, you can find a lot of tips, a lot of ideas, a lot of ways that I have made a living. I talk about how I've made a living for myself, a very lucrative living for myself through the years in the art field, so it's really on getting your clarity, finding your way, really getting to what you want to manifest, what you want to create in your life, where you're going to, if you're wholesale, retail, how you want to price your jewelry. It's really a non-competitive, a really good support system. So I hope I see you guys in Unfolding. I actually meet also once a month for all the energy work that has to do with with my program, my membership, and behind the scenes. So I hope to see you guys there. There's a ton of projects in there, and ideas on how to build with silversmithing. So I wanted to show you a couple things actually that if you notice, I think you guys can see what I have to the right of my soldering station. These are just a couple tools that I use from the Nomadic Toolkit. The big pliers, the locking pliers, my soldering pick that I love. I have my paintbrush that I use that's so essential. I have actually 2 size markers because, for marking, I like my big size and my small size. But this has to do with the Nomadic Toolkit. And then I have just this is actually a steel brush pen, it's called, and it really, I don't need it there, but I can find it easier. I actually can put this here. So if you guys don't know the Nomadic Toolkit, I actually just have links over into Amazon because I use the Nomadic Toolkit. Over to this side, I've got a mess to my left, but these are my 3 soldering. I have hard, medium, and easy that I use. And my flux, my flux that I have to add water to if I forget to put the top on here. Gorgeous, gorgeous gems that are next in line. And I think you guys know, if you look below, I actually sell. I buy so many gems. Beautiful, beautiful gems. So I have a pretty good price, a very good price on my gems. Look below. And I also like to group them together in interesting groupings. So that's kind of, that's what I do here. But you know what? I wanted to show you guys one more thing. This was a find as I was pulling this out of the pickle. These actually, these are screens that are made out of plastic for my pickle. But I found these on Amazon. They're super cheap. They're all plastic. There's like 4 of them, these bright, bright colors. But these were, oh my God, just a couple $dollars for all these. So I can throw them in my pickle, and also when I have other students or other people in here, you can just remember the color of your screen that you have. I think there's, let's see, there's yellow. I'll show you the other colors. So I just had students out. And, there's these 4 colors. So that's nice. You can use them for your liver of sulfur, your pickle. And this also is a nut. These are actually tea. Look under tea holders, loose tea holders. This is a loose tea holder too. I love this find. This was not expensive. Anytime you can get away from buying something from the medical world or the jeweler's world, you're going to find things cheaper. So this is all plastic, so it can go in your pickle. If you guys know, you cannot put steel in your pickle. And I love this piece because if I have tiny little pieces like granulation, tiny little charms I'm working with, they won't get lost because I can put this on, snap it in. It can even get jumbled around inside my pickle. This one was a tiny bit more, but still, it's like under $10. So these are pretty valuable. This is my finds lately that I'm very excited about. Now, here's the piece that I wanted to show you guys. This has to be a little bit more work hardened, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna separate this here, right here, and I have got a bezel that I made earlier. The inside is not clean, but that's okay. We don't need it clean yet. This one is out of the pickle. And the way that I am, I see there's, sometimes you have to be careful, especially me. I see a little piece of solder here. So I'm gonna try to use that when I get this ring going. I'm gonna use this little bit of solder here to get that solder off. That's the easiest way to get excess solder off is by just using what's on there. Have you guys used Hold It before? I usually don't get in, this from Pepe Tools. I usually don't get into all this kind of funny stuff, but this is so nice when it's really clay that can hold your piece. You don't want to get it onto the area being soldered, but you know how we're always looking for an area. There you go, see that? It holds everything in place and it can take the heat. It gets dry and yucky, but it can take the heat. And listen, it's my choice now. I can solder this bezel on with a, I can solder it on with a easy, a medium, hard. I usually like to stick with medium, and only because medium is pretty much the same color as my sterling silver and it flows easier. You know, hard is too, but okay. So I'm gonna take this off. You guys can see right here, I've got all my medium. I always use these beautiful little squares that I have cut, and you just need the tiniest piece. You don't need that much. So I put this all in the flux. I'm heating this up. I have good ventilation in here. Anytime you're using acetylene, you want to make sure that you have good ventilation. I'm going to actually put this medium right here. Now, actually, I usually like to solder this down this way, but I wanted to show you guys. This is the way I usually like to solder this down. I wanted to show you guys the Hold It. Isn't that kind of fun? Okay. Here's where I'm going to use my locking pliers, like this. Here's where I'll quench it in my flux, because I don't need this to, I don't need to get it all, you know, wet and reflexed again. So I'm just going to put it together this way. My eye, this is where it does help. Yep, that was all set. And I got that other solder moving, but I'm not getting it centered right. So let me try it again. I'm getting it soldered down, but I'm pulling it. There we go. Let me move this piece here. I'm doing this the long way. Okay, there we go. You have to get super comfortable with the way you're soldering this down. Look at how cool this piece is gonna look. It's gonna be work hardened too. So this will stay together nicely. You wanna give it a couple seconds and then you quench it. So really I have a little bit of room. It is adjustable. I've got a little bit of room where I wanna sit this piece under. And this is how you do some of your adjustables. You know, it could be double. I can put this on the inside, but once I get it polished up, you just have to work with it a little more. You know, it seems at this point that there is, you know, at this point it seems like it's gonna be too loose on your finger. But once metal is work hardened, believe me, this is an adjustable and it's going to be amazing. So let me get it all cleaned up. I'm going to put it in the pickle, scrub it up, get the stone set, and then I'll show you how beautifully this works. Isn't it nice to have a brand new bench pin? Oh my gosh, how crazy. My other one on the other side, I decided I needed a couple of them in my studio. I just need them in a couple places in my studio. I like this one. This one is on Amazon, but I can tell you it originally is a Thomas Mann It's a Thomas Mann bench pin because he was a jeweler. He's not anymore, but you can really get in here and get around with your piece. So I'm just gonna clean this up this way, just to really, and I like using the steel brush. I don't wanna brush my piece out of place before it gets work hardened. You see this underneath here, it's just supporting. This wire right here is gonna be supporting my piece loosely, and this is on the inside of my piece, so I can, it's nice to have a little extra. You know, especially for these small gems. Getting this just all polished up. Really nice. I can get on here and hit it with the mallet, get it work hardened a little bit. Get a little bit of color on here. I have a beautiful aquamarine that is ready to go into this stone, but I have to build up the wall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little smaller size. This isn't working, but this does work right here. Usually there's a little area that you can put it into. I have to put some foil in the background, but I have a little bit of, here they are. I've got a different size. I was just showing yesterday with my students, just different sizes of bezel wire. This is a fine silver, but it looks like it's been around a little bit more, sitting around my studio. It's a fine silver. I'm gonna get it cleaned up. The reason I wanna keep my metal and it's like a 30 gauge, this is a 1/8. And I'm gonna actually build this to go on the inside of my silver. Once I get this all cleaned up inside here, I can get a tool. But this actually, you really wanna fit this right around the wall in your piece. Once I get my magnifiers on, it's kind of hard to get around. This definitely I want to be spring loaded. So I'm gonna fit this to fit exactly is my purpose here. Is definitely my purpose because it needs to support my stone. It needs to be a little bit longer. Let's see if this size is gonna work. Yep, this is gonna be a nice size right here, a little bit shorter right there. So I'm gonna give it a cut. This doesn't have to be soldered. You can just put this loose inside of your bezel, as long as it fits beautifully. This is just a little secret, and then I'm gonna put some foil in. But again, you guys, jump into some of my projects because I show how to do foil in, you know, really how I do foil. More of the specifics to things. So if you're working on ideas, there we go. Look at how nicely that sits in here. And the reason that I have this going on is because it's gonna sit beautifully. It'll fit my stone beautifully. So I'm gonna be very excited. This is one that I'm gonna burnish down on the sides. It'll be a beautiful, beautiful stone. But before I cinch that up, I can decide if I wanna put a granulation, maybe some granulation around the side is what I might do. So we'll see. There's a lot of options, but I just wanted to show you guys doing this type of a piece. And really, it will fit beautifully and stay on, and I still can adjust it. So it's work hardened. I just need to hit this a little bit with a mallet, and I'll have no worries with it. Okay, you guys.